Hello again, Aric Hall with the Blaze of Glory. Well, you've seen my pictures and videos from the upper part of the Madison River, and the various creeks and trails around Hebgen Lake and Earthquake Lake. Today we're going to take a quick run through part of the lower Madison, through the flats, which is out past Earthquake Lake. Now I should say that a lot of these pictures are terrible because of the wildfire smoke. There were plenty of wildfires around this summer. This is a close-up of the Bacon Rind fire along the Gallatin River near Big Sky. One morning, when the wind was blowing in the right direction, it was raining down ash on the car and the tents and the campsite. This is an absolutely beautiful and pristine place to visit, so long as you get in there before late June, when the wildfires break out and then ruin all of your pictures. One of the first places we're going to stop is at Sheep Creek and the Sheep Creek Trailhead. Now, I did not hike up in there on this trip. It is actually a pretty long creek valley that goes back up from the Madison. It's actually just south or southwest of Earthquake Lake. There are a couple of really small mountain lakes up in there, so if that could be water high. I've got 2 or 3 pictures here showing what is the backside of the rock slide. What was the mountain slide at Earthquake Lake? Well, this is on the back side of that, which is right near the trailhead for Sheep Creek. If you're really adventurous, you can walk up that steep slope through the vegetation and overgrowth up to the top of that mountain ridge and probably have some great photographs looking over Earthquake Lake. I may do that if time allows on my next trip to the Yellowstone region. In the picture I have red arrows denoting the backside of that mountain ridge that is the rock slide, and the yellow arrows denote where Sheep Creek is going back up into the mountains. If you can get to this area, just out past Earthquake Lake, if you can go there in June before the wildfires begin, on a night when there is a new moon or near a new moon, when the skies are crystal clear, this is probably one of the best stargazing spots in the lower 48 states. As the Madison River turns north, it actually joins with a west fork of the Madison River. Now, if you take the Forest Service roads and go up the west fork, there is, I believe, Cliff Lake and Wade Lake. You can tell from the satellite images that that is very blue water. I mentioned that because Forrest Fenn had mentioned in one of his books about cobalt blue water at a fishing location, which I've only seen blue water really off at a distance, not up close. But as you head north from this area, you go past the Lions Bridge, and along the west side of the Madison River, there's kind of like a short cliff face or an extended rock outcropping. I wouldn't even call this a canyon here, but you can see this short rock wall running along the west side of the river for a number of miles. I tried to take a close-up picture of this bird in its nest up on a man-made pole. There's a number of these along the Madison and some of the other rivers, and unfortunately I never can get close enough to tell when it's an eagle or if it's an osprey, because both are around the area. On the east side of this broad, wide valley that is called the Flats, there are a number of mountains that are back up into the Gallatin National Forest. Now, there are half a dozen, maybe, access points, Forest Service roads that you can take or county roads you can take that would get you back up to these little creek valleys going back up into those mountains. But a lot of this is private homes and ranch land, so there's only certain places you can access, but there's about a half a dozen. I went up to several of these creek trailheads. I do wonder what the blaze would be in there, unless it's some of the rock outcroppings. But those are not white, and they're not as pronounced as, say, the ones up around Red Canyon and Cabin Creek. There were a couple of places where I could see livestock, and maybe if you believe that that's the animals that Forrest referred to when he said, I can see animals where the treasure is. But they're off in the distance. They're not close to those creek inlets. And clearly there's no pine trees out here in the open valley floor. So up your creek would have to take you back into those mountains, at least to the openings going into those mountains. And that's where you would have kind of a meeting of pine and sage. But out on this broad valley floor, there's too many things that don't fit the clues. But if you go back to the mountains, you can make them fit. I don't remember all of the names of these mountains. The one that's the most prominent, that I have the most pictures of, is, I believe, the mountain that's called the Sphinx. The Sphinx is perhaps no place for the meek, because, you know, if the Sphinx asks you a question and you don't give it the correct answer, it strikes you dead. And there are actually 2 Sphinx mountains in south-central Montana. The other one is over by Gardiner, just north of Yellowstone. These photographs are at the very lower end of Bear Trap Canyon, which is one of, I think, 4 named canyons that you could pursue along the Madison River. A lot of Bear Trap Canyon is hard to get into by automobile. As I head north, I'm getting into open farmland and other grassland. This is along the Madison River. You can see off in the distance to the west, there's kind of that white rock face or outcropping of white rock that runs for many miles along the west bank of the Madison River. Where I'm headed to at the time I'm taking these photographs is up to the Buffalo Jump site. Here, the Buffalo Jump State Park is within line of sight of the Madison River and the valley floor down below. This was, I believe, the location where the Indians chased the buffalo off of the cliff to watch their bodies explode on the rocks below, and then they could collect the buffalo meat. Supposedly, this site was where they killed more buffalo than any others. Yet we're told the white man killed off the buffalo. There's not a buffalo within 50 miles of here. The further you go down the Madison River, the less finny it gets. There's no mountains and no pine, and in very few places any sage, this far away from the Yellowstone area. Well, that concludes this trip on the Madison River. Remember to click like, share, subscribe, comment, and donate.